All right, my name is Jeff Silbrack. I work for Pape Machinery. I am based out of Colfax, and I help cover this Walla Walla region, which is Walla Walla, Colfax, Moscow, and Pomeroy. I went to school here in Walla Walla about 10 years ago now. And then I went to WSU for 2 more years, worked at Aero Machinery, which has then become Pape Machinery for the last year. And my position is Integrated Solutions Consultant. That we have 4 of them within Pape Machinery, and I'll show you on the map in a little bit of where the other 3 are in this world. So just a short slide about Pape Group. It's a long-standing company out of Oregon, and the kind of oddity in the John Deere world is that they also do industrial, material handling, Kenworth, Hitachi, Pape Rents, Bobcat, and engineered products. So they're not just John Deere Ag, they are diverse. Here's their locations on the West Coast, and this is all their overall locations. To me, this is the important locations. These are our Ag locations. So there are 2 more consultants down here, and they split the Willamette Valley, north and south. And there is another consultant that basically covers these northern stores. And he also does a lot of sprayer stuff, so you may see him in and out of the Walla Walla region. So this is my goal today, is to present information about John Deere Farm Site, data management, myjohndeere.com, JD Link, the universal tracking tool, remote display access, wireless data transfer, machine sync, John Deere mobile weather, and field connect. And we should be able to get through all of them. So John Deere Farm Site. John Deere's been talking about Farm Site for the last few years. It's kind of this theory of data communication and integration of all the different farming operations. It's going to centralize all of our data and make it easily accessible to the farmer and anyone else he chooses. Ag service providers, us as a dealership. The integrated solutions, anymore it's part of every single machine they make. When we go to training, it's not just a tractor, it's not just a combine, it's not just a sprayer. You know, cotton pickers, tillage equipment, air seeders, air drills, you name it, it's got precision ag technology incorporated into it. Here's a little slide John Deere's made of their farm site. They've always had the machinery. We've had Ag Management Solutions, which are John Deere's Precision Ag, and that started in the 90s, late 90s. And we've had John Deere dealerships that are providing services for our customers, and they want to make sure that we're profitable in doing it and tying everything together so it feels like a complete Precision Ag experience, kind of a one-stop shop. So I'm going to show you kind of a short video that John Deere has made about 1.5 years ago. And at the time, it seemed far-fetched, but as you'll see later on, most of what you'll see here we offer today.
Good morning, Terry. Main menu. Weather. Navigation system initiated. Incoming call.
Hi, Terry. We're finishing up your planner service. You'll be ready today.
Thanks, Sean. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
Message from Crop Advisor. New prescription transferred. Alert. Weather. Alert. Weather. Changing seed population. Files sent. Alert. Row crop tractor 14 has stopped. Message. Dealer technician ETA 32 minutes.
Okay, that little video John Deere put together to be very futuristic and high tech, but I will show you later on that almost every single thing we saw there we have today. The myjohndeere.com where he logged in, we've got that. Check the weather, we've had that for quite a while. Turned on his irrigation there from his office. He talked to his John Deere dealer. He read a message from his crop advisor, and then he sent out that prescription to the field. Let's see here, the farmer driving that tractor, he saw that the weather alert for rain, so he increased his population rate. And they saw the one tractor was broken down, and the John Deere service tech was going to be there in 32 minutes. And lastly, he took his smartphone, took a picture of the soil, and then a picture of the corn leaf and sent it off to his crop advisor. So we're going to talk about data management just for a minute because I want to make sure everyone's aware of data management is going to be the most important thing facing precision ag and ag service providers and dealers alike. Data is being generated, it's been generated since like 1996, at least through John Deere equipment. And we've been compiling all this data and we're not sure what to do with it, where to save it, who should see it, you know, what do we need to do with it. So there's a lot of different policies and programs being put in place today to deal with this data. Because we want to share that between people that are going to help us make the right decisions. And that can be farm managers, ag service providers, dealers, etc. And privacy concerns, that's a big deal for everyone. And we're going to create new opportunity in precision ag for independent people, for ag service providers and dealers. There's a whole new era coming about of what to do with this data, where to store it, and what it means to us. So John Deere has created a space on their server in the cloud called myjohndeere.com, and it's kind of a home point for that farmer to start out with his decision making and data processes. So if I go,
Quick question.
Mhm.
With the cloud and all that, if, like, say a customer decides to move to a different provider, do they get to keep their data that Deere has on their cloud? Since Deere owns the servers that provide the cloud, do they get to take their data with them? Does Deere keep a copy?
it depends on how you've signed up to use your data. When you sign up for myjohndeere.com, there is a agreement of data sharing, and whether or not you're going to share any, whether or not you're going to share just machine, whether you're going to share your production data also. So that part of it, you're going to choose what John Deere can see, and then you'll be able to back up that data into another software. John Deere uses Apex as their desktop software. You could probably back it up into like FarmWorks or SMS or any of the other brands out there. As well as when you create the data, you can still remove it manually onto a thumb drive like we've been doing. And you could also have that data sent to your ASP, and they could be saving a copy for you, and as long as you didn't leave them or something, they would be able to back that up for you also. So there are different ways. That's a good question if John Deere gets to keep it, but technically it's the customer's data, and I don't believe they would try to hold you hostage to it. So if a person signs into myjohndeere.com, and anyone can do this, anyone can set up a myjohndeere.com account. Any person that's already had a Stellar Support account, that are moving all of those into this myjohndeere.com, and it'd be the same username and password. And then this is my home page that they generate for me depending on what I have as John Deere operations. So if you own vehicles, so combines, tractors, sprayers, cotton pickers that have JD Link, you're going to get a JD Link icon. Since I'm a dealer, I have the custom performance icon. Operations Center is pretty new, and that's where they're going to be moving all that data is through Operations Center. So data that you used to use Apex for is going to slowly start migrating into Operations Center. Stellar Support, we can just hot link over to there if you had some questions or need some software or something for your AMS components. These two are dealer only, and the last one's Field Connect, and we'll talk about that at the end. So this is what myjohndeere.com looks like. So now we're going to talk about JD Link. So John Deere called them the rise of the smart machines. When they first brought JD Link onto the marketplace, it was in 8R tractors. It was about 2008. Any more tractors, combines, sprayers, windrowers, almost any self-propelled vehicle can or will have JD Link, and every large ag will. And it's not something that you can remove as a deduct. It's factory installed. So JD Link is a cellular connection back to the cloud, and that connection can give data to myself as a dealer, can give information to the customer, it can give data to anyone he chooses to be able to see that tractor data. It also can provide him with maintenance alerts, location, productivity, efficiency, operational settings, geofence and curfew, software updates, and the website's based on myjohndeere.com. And I will take you there and show you some JD Link features. So this is the home point, and it looked like this for anyone that has JD Link. The only thing that is different is that I have a lot of groups here because Pape Machinery has a person that works there that one of his main goals is to organize, track, transfer all these subscriptions for all these different vehicles. And he sets up different farm name accounts to keep them organized, and you can see that we have quite a few going today. And for the school, I'm going to choose this rental fleet combine, and I know this one is still sitting on our lot, so we can look at its data and it won't bother anyone. So right now I'm using the Express or Select part of JD Link. There are two different kind of levels of it. There's an Ultimate and there's a Select Express, and we'll just look at this really basic data. So here's a map, and you can see off Highway 195 there's a combine. If I bring up our satellite image, you can see, if you're familiar with our lot in Colfax, this is sitting on the lot in Colfax. You can go down here and bring up directions to get to that vehicle, which could be nice for us. My time, I can set up what I want to see for a time frame, and I want to do rolling 12 because it's just been parked for a few months. I think since October is when it said it was parked. But in the rolling 12, when I bring that up, it shows all these different points that it's checked in. So you can see that it checked in right after it was built at the factory, and it checked in on its way across the United States. And you can see here, after it loads, all the different places that this combine has been during harvest. You can see that harvested down here near Walla Walla and back up top. So alerts. This is really nice for anyone that has a trouble code and doesn't know what it means or how to access it or doesn't care to know. So if I open up this name, I can see his trouble codes. So you can see the first one here, fuel level low, trouble code that I don't really care that much about, so we can ignore it. What's important is that you can see when it happened. So you can see that it happened on the 4th, it happened more than once. Well, if we had a code like maybe active header height control problem and it keeps occurring and it's the same code, then we know as a dealer we can look through those diagnostics for that code. We can see what sensor or other component we might need to fix it, and head out to the field with a good idea of what it's going to take to get him back up and running.
Can you run any diagnostic tests through JD Link from, like, say, Service Advisor, or do you have to still be with an EDL?
You can only do it through Service Advisor Remote. So it uses the cellular technology of JD Link, but you can only do it through the dealer's Service Advisor. So yes, you can. And I don't know all the tests that you can run, but there are quite a few diagnostic tests you can run remotely. So down here we just have a basic engine hours. You can configure a maintenance schedule that if you set this up that you want to change your oil at every 500 hours, it's going to send you an email or a text message to say it's getting close to 500 hours. It's time to service that vehicle. And missed calls, if it hasn't got the call put in, it looks like it hasn't missed very many calls. It'll show here when it was out of cell phone coverage. And you can set up when it's going to check in if you are the person running this account. So I'll move over here to the Ultimate, which gives everyone a lot bigger, a lot better information if they're trying to make decisions based on that vehicle. And you'll see here where it gives us a lot of efficiency information. So basic fuel information, it just says overall it's been burning 15.2 gallons per hour. And it shows how many gallons of fuel it's burned and its current fuel tank level. Machine utilization, this must have tripped on at the beginning of the year because it looks like maybe it's been just moved around the lot one time. So these are average temperatures. So when it was harvesting or when it was up and running, these are the average temperatures that it's seeing. Machine utilization by state. This is kind of basic, but we'll bring it up here. And you can see how many hours it's been idle, how many hours it's been working, how many hours it's been in transport. And this is going to be important for a big farm manager to make sure his tractors aren't just sitting around idling, the guy not doing any work all day. You can see fuel consumption. We can see the average ground speed. We can see the engine speed, load factor, and this is critical for emissions, that we're sizing the right equipment to the right size farmer, and he's got his load factor up high so they're burning cleaner. Average fuel rate while working, average ground speed. Yeah.
Can you change like for that average ground speed, can you change the parameters to say you wanted to know what the speed was the last couple hours, the last day, or is it just what the average speed the vehicle's moved in its life?
That's the average speed it's done in the last 12 months. Or yeah, rolling 12. I can do today, and I possibly, if I went into custom, I could break it down into like an hourly segment, so I could really key in on part of the day.
Yeah, so if you were like doing sprayers or whatever and you wanted to see how fast you're moving to get the certain spray coverage or whatever it is.
Yes. Down here we can see some machine settings. We can see what is concave clearances, sieve and chaffer adjustments. This part right here, if it pops up, here we go. This is really good information. So this is detailed utilization by state. So the first one is idle with grain tank not full. So it spent 34 hours of its life just sitting there idling, warming up, cooling down, doing whatever, just to idle. So here's idle with grain tank full. So this combine spent 3.6 hours sitting there idle waiting for a truck or a grain cart. That's quite a bit, and a guy might want to watch that. This is a big one, unloading, not harvesting. So this combine spent 9 hours unloading, not on the go. Opposed to 3.2 hours harvesting, unloading on the go. So if a guy had two combines and one seemed like it was putting a lot more bushels through it in a day, you can come in here and you can bring up two at the same time or just generate reports, and you could have a paper copy to look at, which would be a little easier than this. You could see maybe one of them is unloading on the go significantly more than the other, and this is maybe where you're losing your efficiency. Then there's a few more states that aren't quite as important, and just a harvest time. And this one is like headland, turn, separator, engage. So how much time is that combine spent with the machine running but his header up turning corners? And then just some transport information. This is bigger on tractors than it will be on combines or sprayers. The auto track time. So this thing didn't have auto steer on it. And you can see he used it 0 hours out of 331. If we were tractors and we're doing row crop farming, this is going to be extremely important that we're maximizing our auto track. And then just a few more things have to do with combines, like auto header. How often is he running his auto header height, auto reel speed. Machine speeds, these it says last speed, so this is the last time he was harvesting, what kind of speeds it was running at. Just another hour reading, and it also has separator hours that are listed here. Engine information, this can be important to us as a dealer, that we make sure that our exhaust regens are going through like they should. It's got 31 complete regens and 6 that have been aborted. If the guy's got a really high regen abort count, we want to know that to make sure that he knows that he needs to let it run through these cycles to keep that exhaust system clean. And this is a little pie chart of that information we looked at earlier. So we've got a nice part of it here, 59% harvest time. We got 16% headland turn. So that's a lot of time you spent turning corners. There's all sorts of really detailed information that if you look at, if you had two different machines that you're seeing different outcomes, and this could tell you maybe what one operator is doing a little bit different than the other. Or if we had one tractor that was a 600 horsepower tractor and one that was a 500 horsepower tractor, we can see how the two are working, maybe to see which one might be the better size for his operation. Another little auto track OM time, machine total hours, and system voltage. And this information is available to me as a dealer. If the customer has said, okay, I want this dealer to see it, he can say yes or no to whoever he likes. So these are the parts that it takes to have a JD Link vehicle. We've got an MTG here, Modular Telematics Gateway, so it communicates with the antenna as well as the CAN bus system on the vehicle. And then we've got a standard cellular antenna, and I believe this is the satellite antenna. All of ours just use cellular for our area, and it doesn't use voice, it just uses data. So if it does have a message to send and it's out of coverage, as soon as it gets in coverage, then it makes that message. It doesn't have to have that established communication all the time. It can just store it and send it when it's back in service. This is a new product, and this is a universal tracking tool. So this gives you location information, and this one right here is got its own self-contained battery. They also make ones that just 12 or 24 volt, and it's an asset tracking tool. And I don't know how many of these we're going to sell, but it could be something like an ag service provider might like to put on a fertilizer machine or a sprayer or a tender truck, or something they just want to have a big picture of where all the machines are and where they're going. And we can do some of the same things like the geo fence. We can set up a kind of a fence around the thing that if it leaves there, it'll send us an alert that, you know, maybe it's been stolen. Engine hours, distance traveled. It's just kind of a little bug to put on your machines. And it's kind of scary where things are going, it looks like to me. Okay, remote display access. This gives myself or anyone else that is set up through JD Link the ability to see what the person has on their 2630 display screen. So their screen in the cab that they're running their sprayer or drill or auto track or even combines, we can log in and see what they see. So if they have a problem and they're having trouble explaining it to us, trying to tell us what it looks like on the screen, we actually can call into it and see exactly what they're seeing. We can help them push the right buttons. We can't actually push the buttons for them yet, but we can see what they see. This is a big deal because it can work on any internet capable device. You know, cell phones, tablets, laptop, you name it. If we have internet access, we can help you without having to drive all the way out there. You know, it's a pain to drive an hour and a half for a 5-minute button push and go. This is a nice feature. Customer service, this is going to be big on everyone that wants to maintain that uptime. So here's just a picture of what it looks like on all these devices. It looks exactly like what you see on the screen. Wireless data transfer. This is a new product for this year, and it's going to pair that JD Link cellular antenna with the ability to send data out of that 2630 display back to your myjohndeere.com. So you can set it up to do it at the end of the day. A guy can just do it manually, but you'll go into a data sharing button on the screen and you'll tell it, I want to send that data back. And you can choose where it's going. It's obviously going to go to your myjohndeere.com, but you can also send it to your ASP or some crop advisor or anyone you want. You choose where it's going to go and it'll go there. The other nice thing is that it can receive prescriptions. So if a farmer's got a prescription for a field and he loses it, or who knows what happens to it, or maybe he tries to change it and messes it up, we can resend it back to him, you know, right over there without having to fumble for another thumb drive or figure out what he's done wrong. We can send it up almost like a backup to him. So here's a picture of a 2630 display, which is the display that we need. A tractor or combine or sprayer that's JD Link capable and enabled with this remote display access. That'll give you both wireless data transfer and that remote display access for this year. Machine Sync. This has been out for 2 years, and it's machine communication via radio between a tractor and combine, and it can be multiple tractors and multiple combines. The tractor is able to see some of the things that are going on in that combine's cab. Can see grain tank levels, can see direction of travel, location in the field, so it can see where all the other pieces are in that harvest operation. So the biggest function that it adds is helping them unload on the go. So the grain cart operator and combine will set up where the unloading auger is perfectly over the center of that cart, and they'll basically set a home point. And once it saves that home point, it knows where the tractor needs to be to keep that grain cart in the right place. So when they're harvesting, the tractor will drive up into a certain area that's within like 120 feet of the combine, and it'll speed up and turn on the sync, and it'll drive up underneath them and then slow down that tractor. And then as the combine speeds up and slows down, or turns left, turns right, the tractor is going to mirror him. So it doesn't have to be straight back and forth. The combine can also manually shift where that grain cart is. So if he's wanting to fill the back, wanting to fill the front, or either side, he can push a button on the screen to shift that grain cart in and out, fore and aft, and fill that cart evenly. And there are some videos of this online. They're a little bit hard to watch. I actually got to do this in Orlando this month, and it was really neat to watch it in action. The John Deere Mobile Weather. This is going to be a pretty big product that I think they're going to expand to more lines than just self-propelled sprayers. So you can see here that there's a little weather station mounted on the cab rail outside the sprayer. It'll give you the ability to make alerts based on weather information like temperature, humidity, delta T, wind direction, and wind speed. If you haven't heard of what delta T is, I'm going to teach you a little bit about delta T. And it's mostly just so everyone's heard of delta T, because it's kind of a new thing in the spray world. And the definition of it is the difference between wet bulb and dry bulb temperature, combining the effects of temperature and relative humidity on the survival of spray droplets. So it's critical that if a person doesn't really understand delta T, they know what kind of spray droplets they're making and what range will be ideal for those droplets. So this little graph assumes coarse droplets. So anytime we're in the green area, our droplet survival rate is going to be very good. When you see the humidity getting too high and temperature going low, and most of the time just high humidity starts hurting those droplets, as well as really high dry temperature. So there's kind of a mid-range that's ideal. And this is a big deal in some parts of the world. I guess Australia, this is huge there. So if we're concerned about our delta T and our temperature and our wind direction, this is maybe what it looks like when the customer's operating the machine in the field. He's spraying along at 70 degrees, delta T's 15, wind speed's 5. So if he set up some alerts, this thing will turn red when it's exceeded that alert value to notify him, hey, you know, pay attention. And maybe if it's a wind speed alert, he could have that set up also. But predominantly the delta T and wind speed probably are what guys are going to set up as their alerts. And it's really critical that he's also documenting this automatically. He's not having to enter in anything by hand or look up the local weather station to then document that. He actually has his in-field documentation. So this is what a map looks like of the documented, I think this one was air temp. So you can choose of what layer you're going to look at. It just happens to be air temperature, but you can also see wind speed. You could also see that delta T. So wind speed might be a big deal if your neighbor was kind of curious why you're spraying so close to his weed on a day. Well, you can look at your map and you can show him that when I went by your field, this is the wind speed. We've had one customer that had trouble with the chemical, and the chemical company was curious when he sprayed, you know, all the different information. He just pulled out his map and he handed it to him, and they reimbursed him for the spray. So some of this data can be very valuable when saved and the guy knows how to use it.
Compensates ground speed for wind speed and direction.
Yes, there's a controller that interprets that little weather station information. So this is a pretty new product, and we as Pape Machinery have 4 of these in the ground right now, and it's called John Deere Field Connect, and it's a soil moisture probe, which is this little yellow hat that you can see sticking out of the ground. I think this was like a 6-meter probe, I think. Maybe not quite that big. And the little gateway here, and it also has environmental sensors plugged into it. So this probe is going to be taking readings, and this one I think had 5 different sensors on it. It's going to take moisture level readings at different depths of the soil. We also have these environmental sensors to tell us what's going on outside in the environment. So these are some of the options you can put on there for your environmental sensors. We got a little weather station, pyranometer, temperature probe, which you could put in ground or up on the surface, the rain gauge, and a leaf wetness sensor. So all that is available online through this myjohndeere.com website. So we'll go back there. So here's my Field Connect link. And if I were a grower, this on the left is going to show all my different Field Connect sites. And since Pape has 4 of them, I can see all 4. 2 of them are taken down right now and 2 of them are active. You can see this little map, and this is out at McGregor's Research Fields near Makanima, but here's where they are in the world. So if I click one of them, it's going to take me into its data. So right now it's showing the rolling month, which is probably fine, but we can put in custom time frames. We can put in any of these different options. So our data layers, right now I'm looking at soil moisture. If I bring this up, it says soil moisture, and my graph type right now is a sum graph. So it's an average of all the sensors on the probe. If I go to a line graph, it's going to show me each individual sensor's information. At the bottom, you can see there the green line's at 4 inches, yellow line's at 8 inches, black line's at 12, blue at 20, purple at 40, and the orange is at 60. So you can see the ones at 4 and 8, the yellow and green, are very active. And you can see as we go deeper into the soil, less activity starts happening. And if I hover over any point, it's going to give me an exact measurement on this exact time and date. So January 7th, 2014 at 9:36 a.m., this is exactly what it saw. And if I bring up another tool, like I want to see something from my rain gauge at the same time, which might not work out that well for this month, but we might have to bring up another one so you can see that, some rain data, which is minimal this winter. But I guess we do have a little bit here. So you can see the blue, these are rain events. So you can see where we had rain events that increase those moisture levels in the top layers of soil. But you can see those rain events weren't enough to really make, they impacted here the 12-inch mark, but really only slightly impacted the 20-inch mark. And this rain, if I can measure it possibly.
So even though it looked like a high amount of precipitation, the infiltration was definitely not at the lower depths.
Right. If I got rid of my moisture, I could read it, but this is only 0.35 inches of rain right here. So even though it looks like a lot on this graph, it's really not that much in reality. And another pretty neat thing to look at, so if we get rid of rain, sometimes if you look at wind speeds at the same place as your moisture, you can see moisture leaving the soil when the wind speeds were going up. So you can see these wind speeds going up. This is 25 to 50 miles an hour. My mouse is kind of in the way, but you can see those moisture levels declining. And if I bring up a bigger graph of this, it'll show you almost every time we have winds, those top levels get greatly affected out there. So we can look at all sorts of different data in here, like our leaf wetness sensor, air temps, wind direction, air temperature. If we buried one of those little sensors in the ground, then we'd also be able to see ground temperature if we want to watch that. The big focus of this product is towards irrigation and water management. So if a guy set up his boundaries here of where they knew the optimum soil moisture levels were, as soon as you turned on the irrigation, you would see those levels changing, and you would know exactly what impact the irrigation cycle had on that crop. A crop advisor could tell you that this amount of moisture is correct for this time of the year. So an irrigator could very, very precisely apply his water and use it correctly. This is going to be a huge product in the irrigation world. So this is just a fun slide. Is this too much technology? I don't know that it's too much technology, but that is a really busy cab. But it is kind of cool that the guy's trying to do it all there. So we're trying to move people into, you know, screens and displays that can do multiple things. In a couple screens, you know, this is older stuff here. The newer equipment, we can see multiple things all in the same display.
I like how there's a second seat there.
Yeah, a training seat. So thank you all for attending. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.